The place, a Michelin-starred rooftop spot in Rome overlooking the freaking Colosseum. The event, Queen Caldwell's 70th birthday bash. The moment, I walked up to the table, a table I'd spent 6 months and thousands of my own dollars planning, and saw it. 13 guests, 12 chairs. My husband, Sean, gave this practiced little smirk and deadpanned, "Oops, guess we miscounted." The whole Caldwell crew, Boston's blue blood elite, snickered into their high-end martinis. That was their cue to publicly ice me out. My internal GPS, the one that tells you when you're being played, went haywire. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just fixed my face, looked at them all, and said 4 simple words that ended their entire dynasty. Seems I'm not family. 30 minutes later, sitting in a tiny Roman cafe, I hit cancel on every single reservation, vendor, and deposit for their entire week-long Europe trip. The catering, the yacht, the Tuscan villa, gone. Their faces when they figured it out? Priceless. Stick around, because this isn't just about a dinner. It's about old money, infidelity, and the sweetest financial revenge you'll ever hear. My name is Jane Morgan. 5 years ago, I was just Jane Morgan, founder of Elite Events, the hottest gig in event planning from Beacon Hill to the Back Bay. I'm talking self-made, bootstraps, put myself through business school at night hustle. I didn't inherit a dime, I earned every single one. That's how I met Sean Caldwell, heir to the Caldwell investment firm, a name that, in Boston, means old shipping money, private clubs, and a sense of entitlement that's thick enough to cut with a knife. The red flags were there, but man, was Sean charming. He swept me off my feet, but his mother, Queen, a proper Boston socialite, always treated me like a novelty act. Self-made success is so American, she'd purr, making me sound like a street vendor who got lucky. The wedding, which, naturally, I mostly planned, was a whole vibe, but afterward the shade became systematic. My career? A charming hobby. My ideas? Dismissed, then taken credit for. And Sean, my husband? He'd shrug, telling me, "That's just how my mother is, don't take it personally." But when you're systematically erased, when your worth is chipped away at every family dinner in their Chestnut Hill mansion, honey, it gets personal. The cracks showed when I started planning Queen's big 70th in Rome. Payments for vendors, lagging, wire transfers, delayed. Then, the real bombshell, a document left open on Sean's laptop. The Caldwell fortune? It was a house of cards. Investments tanked, properties mortgaged to the hilt, lines of credit maxed out. They were going broke, and they were hiding it. But that wasn't even the worst part. The morning we flew out, I saw a text on Sean's phone. A message from Michelle Hughes, his college sweetheart, the woman his family had actually wanted him to marry. "Can't wait to see you in Rome. Have you told her yet?" The message thread? Months of planning, a future discussed, and a detail that stopped my heart. Michelle was 4 months pregnant. Their baby. I snapped screenshots, deleted the evidence, plastered on my best wife of a Caldwell smile, and boarded that flight knowing this trip was not a celebration. It was my funeral as a Caldwell. The week in Rome was a calculated exclusion. Private tours that everyone knew about but me. Whispered conversations that stopped dead when I walked into the lobby. I spent my time in the hotel business center, not planning, but gathering intel. Bank statements, email printouts, a handwritten note from Queen to Sean about how Michelle would be welcomed back properly once this unpleasantness with Anna was behind them. And then, I found the divorce script. An actual pre-written document outlining how Sean would announce our amicable split at Queen's birthday dinner. My exit was the gift, their final act of humiliation. Wait, hold up, you think you've heard the worst of it? Honey, this is just the appetizer, the real drama, the moment I drop the bomb and their world implodes. That's coming up next. But look, if you're listening to this right now and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, you're missing out on the whole series of epic clapbacks we do here. You're literally risking the satisfaction of hearing a spoiled family get what they deserve. Don't be that person. Hit subscribe and let the algorithm know you're here for the justice. And if you're not going to subscribe, fine. Go to the comments and tell us why you're choosing to live a life with less drama. We'll wait. The day of the dinner, I was printing final confirmations in the hotel business center, just being the good event planner, when I heard Queen at the concierge desk with a tone that could freeze the Charles River. "There will be 12 seats, not 13, she instructed. "The seating chart is final." His wife will not be staying for the dinner. A family matter, you understand? The missing seat wasn't an oversight. It was the centerpiece of the plan, a public, undeniable rejection designed to make my exit look like my choice. I left that room, walked to the elevator, and pulled out my phone. If they wanted a memorable birthday dinner, I was going to give them one, just not the one they planned. I arrived at Aroma Restaurant, a rooftop marvel with the Colosseum glowing in the sunset. I inspected the custom menus, the white peonies, the 7-course tasting menu. My professional pride, the one thing they couldn't touch, demanded excellence. I was flawless. Then, I changed into my Valentino gown and met them in the lobby. Fake smiles, fake chatter. We rode the elevator up, and the doors opened to the scene I'd designed. One by one, the 12 Caldwells and their spouses, George, Denzel, etc., took their seats. Sean moved to his spot next to Queen. I walked to where my place card should have been and found nothing. No chair, no setting, no acknowledgement of my existence. Conversations continued around me, the whole family avoiding eye contact. Queen finally spoke, all wide-eyed innocence. "Is something wrong, Anna darling?" Then came Sean's big moment, the one he'd practiced, delivered with a casual chuckle that made my skin crawl. "Oops, guess we miscounted." The family laughed. It was a sick, shared joke. I saw it all then. Their complicity, their smugness, Sean's detached curiosity, like a scientist observing an experiment. They wanted me to create a scene, to make a fool of myself so their divorce narrative would be clean. But I straightened my shoulders, looked my husband in the eye, and gave them the truth, unplugged from their script. Seems I'm not family. I turned and walked toward the exit, my dignity, my armor. Sean called out, "Anna, don't be dramatic. We can fix this." But I was already gone. Across the street, in a small Roman cafe, I pulled out my phone and a prepaid burner. I had 30 minutes of freedom while they were congratulating themselves. This was my moment. First, an email to the restaurant manager, Marco, triggering the payment reversal and canceling my company's guarantee for the dinner. Next, the dominoes, the private Vatican guide, the Amalfi Coast yacht captain, the vineyard lunch, the Tuscan villa where they were booked for the rest of the week. One by one, I canceled everything, transferring the deposit secured with my company's credit line back to my account. With each tap, I felt lighter, like a parasite was being ripped out of my soul. Look, I'm giving you the keys to epic revenge and total financial freedom, but if you're still listening on a burner account without subscribing, you're sending a message to the universe that you prefer things to be mediocre. Don't you want to be associated with people who get what they deserve? Subscribe now. Become part of the squad that doesn't back down. Think of it like pre-registering for a future where you never let anyone treat you like a second-class citizen. If you skip this, you're basically saying, "I'm cool with being excluded." Don't do that to yourself. 28 minutes later, I finished my espresso and walked back across the street, slipping into a hidden alcove by the kitchen. The Caldwells were toasting Queen. The first course, imported Osetra caviar, had just been served. My phone was blowing up with texts from Sean, annoyed, then confused, then desperate. "Anna, where are you? Stop being childish. The hotel just called. Our reservation for tomorrow is canceled." I ignored them and texted Marco, the manager. "You may proceed." I watched as Marco approached Richard and Queen. Richard's face went from polite interest to confusion, then pure alarm. The family stopped eating. Queen clutched her diamond necklace. And Sean? He was staring at his phone, reading my final text. "All deposits have been returned to my company account. All arrangements for the week canceled. Your family's financial issues are about to become very public. Enjoy your caviar." Sean called. I answered. His voice was a raw mix of fury and panic. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he hissed. "Seems I'm not family, Sean. So I'm not responsible for family celebrations," I said, calm as a lake in Martha's vineyard. He pleaded, "You don't understand what this will do to us." I cut him off. "I understand perfectly. That's why I did it. I've seen the financial statements, Sean. I've seen the offshore accounts and the script you had written for my exit. I know the Caldwell empire is crumbling, and I know you've been hiding assets before filing for divorce." The breath went out of him. He never expected me to look under the rug. I ended the call and walked out of the alcove for my final appearance. Queen's face was shaking with fury. "How dare you ruin my birthday?" she screamed. I smiled. "I learned from the best, Queen. I just changed the ending." Richard started to protest. "This is outrageous. You had no right." I had every right, I interrupted. Every contract, every reservation was in my company's name. I simply adjusted the plans. Then I looked at Sean, at his shame-filled face, and delivered the knockout blow. I have copies of everything: the offshore accounts, the hidden assets, the fraudulent business dealings. I'm sure the IRS will find it all fascinating. Their faces turned ghostly white as the implications of an IRS audit and a public financial collapse sank in. I felt no triumph, only liberation. I walked away from the Caldwell family for the last time. This story is peak American dream, the self-made woman crushing the old money elites. If you're an American, or you just love a good underdog story, and you're still not subscribed, you're actively voting against the hustle. Do you want the system to win? Do you want the privileged few to think they can treat hardworking people like dirt? No. Show your patriotism for justice. Hit subscribe. Do it for Jane. Do it for the American way. And if you're stubbornly refusing, go to the comments and tell the world why you're rooting for the entitled, crumbling aristocracy. We need to know who's who. I flew home the next morning, upgrading to first class with points I'd earned planning their previous trips. I left behind a family in total crisis. I found out they paid for their dinner with Queen's vintage Bulgari bracelet as collateral. Can you imagine the scandal at Aroma? Word spread through Rome's high-end hospitality network faster than a scandal in the Hamptons. Back in Boston, the messages were gold. Queen. I always knew you were common. This vindictive display only proves it. Richard. Our lawyers will be in touch. Sean's were the most revealing. You have no idea what you've done. My father had a minor heart episode, and later, the hotel is demanding payment for the entire week up front. I forwarded my documents to my lawyer. 2 days later, a small item in the Boston Globe, investment group faces inquiry. The dominoes were falling. Sean showed up at my new apartment, a cozy place, smaller than our Beacon Hill brownstone, but mine. He looked haggard, the polished veneer gone. You need to come home, he pleaded. This has gone far enough. I told him, this isn't a negotiation, Sean. This is divorce. He tried the threat. I go down with the ship. My debts are your debts. I smiled. Not when I have proof you deliberately excluded me from financial decisions and hid assets with intent to defraud me. My lawyer assures me that's enough to protect me. He finally cracked, head in his hands. I'll give you whatever you want. Just hand over those documents and sign an NDA. Name your price. That was the moment I knew they still didn't get it. They still thought I was someone who could be bought. I don't want your money, Sean. I want my freedom. I want the truth acknowledged. The documents stayed with my lawyer. My divorce terms were simple. I walk away with what's mine, clean break. His infidelity and Michelle's pregnancy became public when she was spotted wearing an engagement ring. The Caldwell name, synonymous with integrity in New England, was now synonymous with scandal. Okay, let's be real. You've listened for over half an hour. You're invested. You probably have this video open in a tab, and you're multitasking right now trying to be a productivity master. But if you haven't subscribed, you're living dangerously. The algorithm is chaotic. If you don't subscribe, this channel, this content, and all the future revenge stories you need will be lost in the YouTube dustbin. You'll never find us again. Don't let your organizational skills fail you. Hit subscribe now so you can keep your life and your entertainment in perfect order. Otherwise, you'll be lamenting in the comments later about the great content you tragically lost. We warned you. The divorce was finalized without drama. The Caldwells were too busy trying to plug the holes in their sinking ship. 6 months later, I got a request to bid on planning Queen Caldwell's next charity event. Desperation had overcome pride. I declined politely, citing a full schedule. A year after that infamous night in Rome, I was back in Italy, planning a celebrity wedding on the Amalfi Coast. As I stood on that terrace, phone in hand, vendors at my command, I realized something. I was happy, not despite the collapse of my marriage, but because of it. The Caldwells tried to make me an accessory in their grand, fake narrative. Instead, they had inadvertently freed me to reclaim my own. I found what I actually needed, the courage to reject a life built on appearances. I raised my glass to the setting sun, toasting the missing chair that had shown me exactly where I belonged. Out. If this story didn't move you, if it didn't give you that little burst of, I needed that energy, then I don't know what will. But honestly, every single person who doesn't subscribe right now is telling us, and the algorithm, that they don't care about justice, redemption, or the hard-fought victory of the self-made, this is your last chance to publicly align yourself with the winning team. Click subscribe. Be a hero. Be a champion of fair play. If you can't bring yourself to do it, you know the drill. Go down to the comments and tell us why you're choosing to deny yourself this small, powerful act of support.